This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. In Matthew chapter 17, we encounter a stunning revelation of Jesus' glory, along with lessons on faith, humility, and obedience. This chapter takes us to a mountaintop experience that changes everything for the disciples who witness it. Welcome to Gospel Unlocked. We're continuing our series on Matthew's Gospel, unlocking insights from each chapter. Let's turn the key and discover what Matthew 17 reveals. Chapter 17 begins with one of the most extraordinary moments in the Gospels, the Transfiguration. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up on a high mountain, and there he is transfigured before them. His face shines like the sun, and his clothes become as white as light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appear, talking with Jesus. As the disciples stand in awe, a bright cloud covers them, and a voice from the cloud says, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." Overwhelmed, the disciples fall face down in fear. But Jesus touches them and says, "Get up, don't be afraid." When they look up, they see only Jesus. The Transfiguration gives the disciples and us a glimpse of Jesus' divine glory. It also reaffirms his identity as the beloved Son of God, the fulfillment of the law, represented by Moses, and the fulfillment of the prophets, represented by Elijah. This moment prepares the disciples for the challenges ahead, reminding them of who Jesus truly is. The Transfiguration challenges us to see Jesus beyond our earthly perspectives, recognizing him as the radiant, divine Son of God who fulfills God's promises. After descending the mountain, Jesus and his disciples encounter a man who kneels before Jesus, pleading for the healing of his son. The boy suffers from seizures, and the disciples had been unable to heal him. Jesus responds, "You unbelieving and perverse generation, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you?" He then rebukes the demon, and the boy is healed instantly. Later, the disciples privately ask why they couldn't drive out the demon. Jesus replies, "Because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." This teaching emphasizes that faith, even as small as a mustard seed, can yield extraordinary results. Jesus calls us to trust not in our own abilities, but in God's power. This encounter with the boy and his father reminds us of the power of sincere faith, urging us to rely on God's strength, especially when faced with challenges beyond our control. Later, as they travel through Galilee, Jesus tells his disciples, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised to life." The disciples are filled with grief, struggling to comprehend what lies ahead. This second prediction of his death reveals Jesus' awareness of his path and purpose. Though painful, he is committed to the mission set before him. This transparency prepares the disciples, though they don't yet fully understand, for the coming events that will ultimately change history. Jesus' prediction challenges us to consider the cost of following him and to trust that even in suffering, God's purposes are at work. When they arrive in Capernaum, tax collectors ask Peter if Jesus pays the temple tax. Peter answers yes, but when he returns to Jesus, Jesus initiates a conversation about the tax, explaining that as God's son, he is exempt from it. Nevertheless, he chooses to pay the tax to avoid causing offense. He tells Peter to go to the lake, cast a line, and take the first fish he catches. In the fish's mouth, Peter finds a coin, exactly enough to cover the tax for both of them. This moment teaches us about humility and respect. Although Jesus is the Son of God, he chooses to fulfill earthly obligations for the sake of peace. It also demonstrates God's provision as the coin miraculously appears when needed. Jesus' actions here remind us to act with humility and grace, even in situations where we have the right to refuse, prioritizing peace and respect for others. Matthew chapter 17 reveals powerful insights into Jesus' divine nature, the importance of faith, and the humility he models for everyday life. From the mountaintop of Transfiguration to the coin found in a fish, each scene in this chapter deepens our understanding of who Jesus is and how he calls us to live. Thank you for joining me on Gospel Unlocked, and I look forward to unlocking more of Matthew's Gospel with you as we continue this journey together.